NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, considered to be one of the world's leading space programs, its advances in space technology have helped put people on the moon, set up satellites, and more. This documentary will go over one of the most impactful programs, the Space Shuttle program. Started in 1972, the Space Shuttle program was meant to carry people and cargo to and from space in a reusable spaceship. It had over 130 missions. Out of all of those missions, only 2 failed. Those 2 failed missions were called the Challenger and Columbia disasters. They would both change the Space Shuttle program forever. It was January 28, 1986. Up to this point, NASA had successfully done 24 launches using the 4 reusable space shuttles. Although this could have made NASA feel a little bit more at ease, this next mission would be different. This time, the pressure would be much higher. Krista McAuliffe, a high school social studies teacher from Concord, would be joining the crew through the Teacher in Space program. More people would be watching than usual, so it was extra important that this mission went smoothly.
T-minus 21 seconds, and the solid rocket booster engine gimbal now underway. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Well, I was in middle school, so I think first of all, I knew that there was going to be something going into space, and I didn't really have all the background information. Once I actually found out what was happening, I was really shocked and sad. I remember being at school and we were called into the library to, watch some of the news footage, and I remember really realizing what a grave situation it was because all of my teachers were crying and sad, and the news footage was so sad. It kind of just got NASA more in the public eye at that time, and made lots of people just kind of realize sort of more behind the scenes the things that NASA was involved with.
All 7 crew members died. Francis R. Scobie, Michael J. Smith, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe. After such a devastating failure, what did this mean for the space program? First, all Space Shuttle missions were canceled for almost 3 years. Ronald Reagan, the current president at the time, appointed the Rogers Commission, which was meant to investigate the Challenger disaster. They found that the O-ring on one of the boosters had failed, which ultimately led to the explosion. They also made 7 recommendations. Most of these focused on safety, but also focused on things like a realistic launch rate and better management. After NASA implemented the changes recommended by the Rogers Commission, they were accident-free for 17 years and 86 missions. The Space Shuttle Endeavour, made partly from spare parts left over from the Discovery and Atlantis shuttles, debuted successfully and completed 19 missions. In that time period, the Hubble Space Telescope was set up, the Galileo probe for Jupiter was set up, and a lot of science experiments were done through Spacelab. But on February 1st, 2003, this clean streak would be ended.
In a horrifying echo of the Challenger catastrophe 17 years earlier, flaming debris fell to Earth along a 300-mile-long trail of destruction from Fort Worth to western Louisiana.
Sadly, I think from the video that's available, it does not appear that there were any survivors.
Again, all crew members died. Rick D. Husband, William C. McCool, Michael P. Anderson, David M. Brown, Laurel Clark, Ian Raymond, Israel's first astronaut, and Kalpana Chawla, the first Indian woman in space. Similar to the Challenger disaster, no missions were had for 2 years after the Columbia disaster. The Columbia Accident Investigation Board, or CAIB, was created immediately after the Columbia disaster. Unlike the Rogers Commission, the CAIB was created independently instead of being created by the government. They found that the physical cause of the accident was a piece of foam insulation that fell off and damaged the left wing, which allowed really hot gases to get into the left wing and lead to the break above Columbia. The management problem was that higher-ups at NASA had seen the foam come off before and not cause major damage, so they got complacent and accepted it as a reasonable flight risk. Just like the Rogers Commission, the CAIB recommended things to change for future shuttle missions. It included 29 specific recommendations, which included better recording of video and pictures during space shuttle launches and landings, making sure insulation foam didn't come off again, recertifying all space shuttle parts by 2010, and introducing an engineering authority who would identify, assess, and fix all flight hazards of a space shuttle launch. Less than a year after the accident, President Bush released a vision for space exploration. This plan would terminate the space shuttle program and focus NASA on going back to the moon and hopefully Mars, but only after the International Space Station was completed.